Hi everyone. Um, Today I decided to do a bit of a review of the MacBook Pro and the Surface Pro tablet. Um, they're both, of course, the Pro versions of the Microsoft and the Apple devices. To my right, I have the MacBook Pro being offered by Apple, and of course, to my left, I have the Surface Tab Pro being offered by Microsoft. Now, I've had both devices about the same amount of time. I think just over a month and a half now, and I never really realized the potential of the MacBook Pro or even the Surface tablet. Now, first I'm going to start with the MacBook. The MacBook comes with a few new upgrades from Apple, which was it came as a free package as part of the Mavericks update. And of course that makes it a lot more functional, i.e. you can use it in the office. You don't have to download Microsoft Office to use it. And a few other things that came with it, a few functionalities that came with it. I'm particularly not an Apple fan, but of course having a MacBook Pro I thought would be ideal to compare the Surface with the MacBook Pro. Having said that, neither am I a full Microsoft fan, but just like everyone else, I use a lot of Microsoft products. The Office, the Visual Studio, the Visio, just mostly for student work. And I thought it would be ideal for everyone to know how good this tablet, laptop, whatever you may call it, I'm talking about the Surface tablet, of course. Microsoft refers to it as a tablet, but I think it should be more advertised as a laptop as opposed to a tablet, because it's got a very powerful CPU. It's just as good as any laptop out there being offered by any other make there is. And because it's been offered by Microsoft, the functionality behind it is so powerful. I'm starting to sort of use it more for my student work as opposed to my my HP laptop. But anyway, moving on. So the Microsoft Surface tablet on its own, without the keyboard, which I've just gone and purchased today, it's pretty good. I mean, you can still work on stuff like most of your Office applications. In here I've got Excel Access, basically all the Office package, including Visual Studio, which does not come as part of the Office package. But for a tablet, I can run Visual Studio on it, which is quite interesting from a student perspective. And again, another thing about it is it's really fast to think of it for a tablet to run Visual Studio so fast. I mean, the PC just here doesn't run it as fast, and it's got twice the CPU power as well as the RAM power, which makes it really, really interesting. Having said that, it's also touchscreen, so without the keyboard, it's still just as functional. But what makes this tablet even more powerful is, with the keyboard, I've got the functions as the options to do Control Alt Delete and get certain menus, important menus up as and when I want it. With the keyboard also, I can also do a lot of coding on Visual Studio without having to minimize the keyboard. So in this case, if I was to do coding with the tablet like this, I'll have to minimize the keyboard or even make it movable so I can move it around, which is not very functional. But of course, with the keyboard, I can code as and when I want. I can search for anything I want as and when I please. And that's what makes it more functional. And not just that, being a Windows 8 tablet, of course, it's touch, as well as you've got the keyboard. But with the keyboard, it becomes more of a laptop, and then more you can use it for everyday stuff. Now, the thing I like about this Surface tablet compared to the MacBook Pro is, I mean, as a student, I use more Office software. As a computing student, so I use more Office software than maybe an Apple software. So functionality wise, I'm likely to use your Microsoft Excel, as how we discussed earlier, your Access, your Word, Visual Studio, OneNote, you know, stuff like that. Most of the time I've got mostly Microsoft applications to run. Of course, you could do a Microsoft Office application on a MacBook Pro, but I can't run Visual Studio, so that leaves me the option of having to carry 2 laptops around. Whereas with the Surface, I can always just use the one. Now, there is a bit of something I need to clarify, because if when you look on the website, Microsoft just released a new, what's it called? A new keyboard, and the keyboard is the Touch Type 2. They've also got the Surface Touch 2. Now the difference is the Surface Touch, which is the one I've got here, 2, has got a backlight, but the keys are flat. As you can see, you can literally roll your hands all over them, and it's still just as responsive. The Surface Type 2 is got a raised keyboard, just like the MacBook. And it's also got backlighting. This also have backlighting. Now the first one they released does not have backlighting, so when you're working in the dark it becomes a lot harder. But this one does. What I'm going to do, I'm going to try and turn off the flash on here while I'm recording, just to see how effective the backlight. As you can see, it just came on almost instantly as the flash came on. Now let's go back to the flash back on. Of course, you won't notice it because the flash is brighter than the backlighting. So that makes it pretty good when you're using it with the keyboard. Another thing is this keyboard can fit Surface 2 and Surface 1. Of course, there are 2 versions. The Touch Type, which is this one, is 99 quid, and what's it called, Type 2, which is pretty confusing. It fits both modules, whether it's Surface 1 or Surface 2, and it works with both models. Another thing is the Surface 2 and the first Surface, there's not much difference apart from Surface 1, which is the one I've got here, uses a bit more battery power, but it's more powerful. It's a lot faster to run applications compared to the Surface 2, which has recently been brought out, and it's got all these new features. There's not much of a difference, but this one is the one you want to get. Forget the RT version, you want to get this one. Okay, right, now moving on. Apart from that, of course, we've got the mouse pad here. Now what I noticed is there's been a bit of a function steal from Microsoft, or Apple, sort of an Apple steal. So basically, the functions with the touch mouse on here works just like an Apple. It's a double finger to get the menu up. As you can see, I'll do it again. So let's move it across. Here's the mouse, double finger there, and we get the menu up. Let's see if we can get a good view of it. There you go, double finger, menu up. So the functions is being made to sort of relate to what people prefer to use, which is the Apple kind of way. But having said that, they've also released this wedge mouse, which is pretty tiny. I'm gonna try and compare it to, what can I compare it to? I'm gonna compare it to my S3 because it's the sort of the closest thing here that I can compare to. Okay, there's my S3, and that's the wedge mouse. Okay, so I'm gonna put the S3 away. Right, now the wedge mouse, it's got the same functionality as the touch keypad, but the good thing about that is it comes with Bluetooth connectivity, which I think is ideal, because the Surface tab only comes with one USB port, which is just to the left here. And of course, if you've got other USB, if you're doing extra programs, you want to transfer files, you don't want to have to remove a USB or Bluetooth adapter just to put another USB in to transfer files. You want to do it as and when you wish. And of course, making this wedge mouse Bluetooth makes it ideal to use because the device has Bluetooth. Now, it doesn't just work with your Surface tablet, it can work with any other thing else. I got this from Staples this morning, about 74 quid, which I think is a bargain for the sort of functionality it gives to the laptop. So say it makes it very ideal when you're using, you always want an independent mouse. Oh, I do anyway when I'm obviously programming. But of course that makes it even better. On the case of the MacBook, which is just turned off because I'm not really much using it, after all that talking about the Surface, probably got a bit annoyed, which I don't blame it. But anyway, so in the case of the MacBook, it's got these, just showing you my password there. Right, okay, so in the case of the MacBook, what we've got is more USBs to use. And of course that means you've got more options. So you can have a mouse plugged in, wired mouse plugged in, or of course if you choose and you can afford it, you can go for a non-wired mouse, which is by Bluetooth or Wi-Fi, whichever one you choose, whichever more favourable to you. But all in all, I do think the Surface tablet gives you more functionality over the MacBook, even though the MacBook is preferred by a lot of students. With the Surface Microsoft Surface Wedge mouse, what I got with it was a Duracell battery. Now, the reason why I'm saying this is because the mouse just tells you how much people don't realize the functionality behind the Surface tablet. Should I say the Pro, because the RT version is apps only and that is not as functional as the Pro version. So if you're gonna get it, you might as well just put that bit extra on top and then get you the Pro version, because it's absolutely brilliant. It's basically a working laptop and you can take it anywhere with you. It's so versatile. It's unbelievable. Right, anyway, going back to the Wedge mouse and the battery. So the battery here, the reason why I want to concentrate on, well, not concentrate as such, but make emphasis on this. People are not very much aware of the functionality of the Surface tablet. And of course, if they were, then they'll probably be buying such a device like this to go with it. Now, I bought this from Staples. It's just the battery tells you how long this has been on the shelf. Because look, if you look at the tip of it, it's rusted. If I can just show you. Yeah, it's slightly yellow at the tip. It's rusted because it's been on the shelf for that much of a while. And that's only because people don't know how good it is. If they were, they'll be buying it like chips, I guess. But yeah, so I came in, I just replaced with another Duracell rechargeable battery, which is ideal because when it does run out, you want to be able to recharge, I suppose, go to the shop and buy another one. Or you could, if you please, in that sense. So this just tells me how the Surface tablet is slightly undervalued because people don't simply know the functionalities behind it. And because of that, I think it would be ideal if most students would choose the Surface over the MacBook Pro. Yes, it's fancy, but I tell you what, once you start using the Surface Pro, you think, damn, why didn't I think of this earlier? And I would guarantee anyone, rather than going for a MacBook Pro, which is virtually almost about the same price as your Surface tablet, you might as well just go for a Surface tablet because it gives you so much functionality. You can use most Microsoft applications on it, especially if you're a computing student. You can use Visuals is something you're going to use mostly at uni if you're going to be using uni. If you're going to be going to uni, that is. So just a quick thing that I think a lot of people needed to know, that the functionalities of the Surface tablet makes it a lot better than the MacBook Pro. As Apple has just offered the Office package, it gives you your Excel, your Access, your Word document, but it's just not enough because with Visual Studio on here, on the Surface, is absolutely, it's punching above its weight for such a small tablet. And you can compare the size of it with the MacBook Pro. They're all offering sort of similar functionalities, but the ability of such a small tablet, I call it a laptop, it's beyond what Microsoft are pertaining it to be. So just something for you guys to have a bit of a chew on, have a look if you can. I mean, you'll have a test of it. Of course, you can always go to the shop, have a try, and see what it feels like. But I think functionality-wise, the Surface, hands down, breaks the barriers. I mean, you can check in stuff magazines and check which one is the best, and all that. But I think that, you know, those are just figures, because if you really want something, you want it for what it does. And of course, with MacBook, you don't get much functionality. Don't get me wrong, Apple and Microsoft tablets or Microsoft products are not very much, what's the word I'm looking for? They're not very much customizable. It has to be their way or no other way. But with what you can do with a Microsoft tablet or Microsoft, Surface Pro tablet, laptop, whatever you want to call it, is far much better than what you can do with an Apple. Of course, if you're something like a graphic designer, then Apple sort of gives you that extra capability. But the screen, I mean, the display, you can see it for yourself from here. The display with the MacBook compared to the Surface Pro is more or less the same. Of course, you've got a smaller screen here compared to the MacBook, but you've got more functionality. So you've got basically a midget punching above his weight. I mean, this Surface tab here is faster than this PC here. Of course, I mean, I've had it for a while, but I've upgraded it. It's got an iCore 3 processor at the moment, and it's got 8 gig RAM, and this has got 4 gig RAM, but it's still booting up faster. It's running applications faster. Both devices, i.e. my PC and this device, is running an SSD drive for the main software. In the same way, if you get the Retina display of the MacBook Pro, you will get the SD drive, which is a solid state. So you don't have a spinning disk within the computer. So once it's turned off, it's turned off. You don't have to worry about anything else. Files are searched a lot faster. But in this particular version that I've got here, you still got the spinning drive, which of course, if the needle scratches the surface, and you've got less of a space to write on. But anyway, just something to leave with you. I'm gonna leave it here and then let you all decide. But to me, I think this is possibly Microsoft's biggest strategy, biggest move in the industry of computing for a very long time. And once people start realizing the capabilities of the Surface tablet, it's gonna take off, and Apple is really gonna have to come up with something, because the updates on Mavericks is definitely not good enough. Thank you for watching, and I hope you come back and watch more videos of mine. Thank you.